Welcome back, everybody. It's your time to EdUp on the EdUp Experience podcast, where we make education your business. This is Dr. Joe Salustio back with you on another episode. And back with me again.
That's a fact.
Is Brent Ramden, CEO of Education Dynamics. Can't even hold the crowd back. What's going on, Brent?
Thank you, Joe. Excited to be back with you again. I want to say this is probably my fourth or fifth one now. So
no, more than that. Got to be more
really?
than that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm a veteran now, but not as good as you. So, but I'm getting better.
I'll pay for that later.
Excited about the conversation we're going to have today. I think I'm intrigued to really peel away at some of the thoughts on innovation with our leader that you will introduce here.
Let's go.
I'm going to do that right now. And I will say we're going to, this will be a little bit short an episode because Brent was late today. No, that's not true. I was late, but I do blame it on Brent. Just because he's my co-host, and that's what I have to do to maintain the host integrity here, is be the one that's perfect, right?
So I'll take the fall for you.
Yeah, Brent, you're too kind. I'll owe you a drink at the bar next time I see you. Ladies and gentlemen, our guest today to tell you all about what the future holds in his crystal ball sitting right next to him. He's Darren Cook. He's the interim Chief Innovation and Entrepreneurship Officer at UC Berkeley. Darren, welcome to an EdUp Mic. How are you?
Yeah, well, thank you, Joe. Doing great. My pleasure to be here. And good to meet you also, Brent.
We're really excited to have you here. I mean, big job, awesome university. So level set for us. Let's just assume that there's somebody here that hasn't heard of UC Berkeley before. Tell us a little bit about the institution and a little bit about your role as chief. Is it CIEO?
CIEO, interim CIEO, and actually it may be interesting to know the history of that role.
That would be great. You could paint that picture for us.
If you're afraid of success, this message isn't for you. Every year, higher ed talks about change, but Insights EDU 2026, it's the catalyst. The Modern Learner Report drops here first, revealing how learners are thinking, searching, and deciding right now. Spoiler, most institutions aren't keeping up. 3 days on the beach in Fort Lauderdale, February 17th to the 19th, 2026. Over 65 powerhouse speakers, real strategy, real data, only built for leaders ready to own their transformation. Reserve your spot now at insightsedu.com. Early bird pricing ends December 15th. EdUp Experience has brought you powerful conversations with more than 400 college presidents and higher ed leaders, over 1,000 episodes and counting. Now, we're inviting you to join us in shaping the future of higher ed podcasting. For just $5.99 a month, you lock in that rate for life, but only if you sign up before December 31st, 2025. As a supporter, you'll get ad-free early access to episodes. Prices go up after December 31st, but your rate never will. Visit edupexperience.com. That's edupexperience.com. Click support the show and join our community today.
Yeah, so if I were able to show you slides, I would give you a pop quiz right now and just say, hey, just how many orgs do you think there are on UC Berkeley's campus? First of all, UC Berkeley, right? Major public university on the West Coast, Berkeley, California. How many orgs on campus support innovation and entrepreneurship? And I give this presentation a lot, and people are like, I don't know, a dozen? You have a startup accelerator, I guess, right? And then I put it up there, and there's over 100 logos on there. It's a big university. Yeah, but we also have a lot of resources. So the question was asked back in 2017, just 2017, how in the world do we make sense of all of these resources on campus? And a blue chip committee was put together with folks across campus. And the number one recommendation was, we need to hire somebody to make sense of all these resources on campus. And at the time, the timing was perfect. Former dean of the business school, our Haas School of Business, was just finishing his tenure term as dean. Rich Lyons was finishing his tenure term as dean. So we hired him to be our first Chief Innovation and Entrepreneurship Officer for the campus. The rest
Wow.
is history. He did a phenomenal job of pulling together the ecosystem. And I have some stats and stuff that I'm about to brag, but jumping right to the exciting part, Rich Lyons was in this role for 4 years as the Chief Innovation and Entrepreneurship Officer until last summer when he became the UC Berkeley's chancellor. So this is the president of the university. And so I think it's telling that the person that they picked to run the whole place was former dean of the business school and the head of innovation and entrepreneurship for the campus. So now we have the what we call I&E, innovation and entrepreneurship. We have the I&E chancellor right there at the top. And, we've had a big month, I'll tell you. So 4 Nobel Prizes in the last week, which, as far as we can tell, is a world record for one campus. Indeed, for one campus. PitchBook, the definitive database of venture-backed anything, has a league table that comes out once a year. 3rd year in a row, we're #1 in the world for venture-backed startups founded by undergraduate alumni, beating Stanford. This is a surprise to a lot of people. They think that there's other campuses that are, and there are other campuses that are very good in this. And then, of course, the U.S. News and World Report rankings just came out, not just the domestic, but the international, where we're far and away #1 public university in the world, right? So a bunch of accolades that we just almost can't help but brag about.
You know what? I'm all good with the bragging, because where else can you, and we'll call it rightfully stating things that exist. And this is important because the word UC Berkeley is the research, the output, the companies, the economical gain from those that are attending and output. It's tremendous. Can you talk a little bit about the outputs and what you see from, these businesses, these entrepreneurs that are really affecting the economy in such wonderful, positive ways?
Yeah, indeed. Of course, right. Huge effect on the economy, right? A lot of the companies that are coming from campus stay in Berkeley, stay in the city of Berkeley. Actually, I just came from this morning a meeting with the city of Berkeley and local developers who we were thinking about, we have so much output from the campus. How do we keep it local, right? I mean, this is a real economic benefit for the region. So anyway, we're thinking about that. But I think it's important because a lot of people, when I say, hey, #1 in the world for venture-backed startups, a lot of people are surprised. Like, what? Are you talking about UC Berkeley? That's funny because people, I think, have a notion, preconceived perhaps, about what UC Berkeley is. Mm-hmm. And it's pictures of people marching in the free speech movement, or it's hippies and summer of love. And like, frankly, but that's all true. Like that happened. But how are we suddenly #1 for venture-backed startups? That seems like a disconnect, right? And I think it's important to go back and look at what is our mission. And at this point, you should legitimately be saying, oh no, is he going to talk about a mission statement? Because that sounds really boring, right? I mean, every company has a mission statement, and I guarantee it's boring and no one really pays attention to it. However, we do have a mission statement, and who knows if it's boring, but we really do pay attention to it. If you Google it, UC Mission, right at the top, it's a lot of words on the page, but right at the top are 5 super important words: providing long-term societal benefits. And once people hear that, they're like, oh, yeah, okay, that makes sense. That would be an appropriate mission for a major public university, providing long-term societal benefits. But when you drill down into it, you see we achieve it through research, teaching, and public service. And again, you're probably thinking, wait, there's no startups in there, because teaching is obvious, right? We have phenomenal programs. Research, 4 Nobel Prizes, right? Phenomenal programs. But then the public service is specifically defined as including translation of discoveries to the benefit of California and the nation, right? Translation meaning like get them out of the lab. So whether or not people literally know the words, everyone on campus knows the ethos of it and really leans in.
Brent, you know a little bit about driving an ethos. You're doing that at the company you represent, and it's important.
Yeah, we don't yet have a Nobel Prize of any sort, but
Well, you're there. That'll change.
yeah, exactly. That's the way it works, right? So, but Darren, one of the things that I've always just admired about UC Berkeley is its ability to impact exactly that, the world that it's in. And part of it is location. You can say, hey, you're part of the Silicon Valley ecosystem, and but I'm sure that's more of a push and pull in both ways. Can
Hmm.
we talk about maybe how you see the culture of the campus being curated for the moment that we're in, where again, you've got more, you're considered, if you look at media, you're considered the startup campus. More ideas are coming out of Berkeley than anywhere else, it feels like. But and you've hinted at this in terms of how teaching happens and how other things happen. Maybe you can connect the dots in terms of what makes the environment there truly special, and how does a university itself actually foster the incubation of these, call it big thoughts, these disruptive
Hmm.
thoughts that eventually attract funding.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm glad. Thank you, Brent, for asking that question. And I'm glad you mentioned Startup Campus, because another thing that happened just in the last couple months is we published a book called Startup Campus. So
Epic.
it's and it was
Oh, we
inspired
have it in
by
his hands too. Look at
I,
that. That was well
I
done,
know this
sir.
is audio only, so you can't see this.
Epic.
Um, because people asked us exactly the question you were asking. And we're thinking, how in the world did Berkeley go from being a little bit skeptical about commercial stuff to being, and what we put on right here on the title, an unexpected
Hmm.
leader in entrepreneurship and startups. So to answer your question, the book is, several hundred pages, many hundred pages. It goes into a lot of detail. I would suggest that there's a couple things that really did change the mindset on campus that really revolutionized. And I think the last, well, I know the last chapter in this book is really directed to other universities, saying, hey, here's some lessons learned from what we did. Maybe you'd like to learn from them as well. But a couple things happened on campus. Number one, we launched a translational research program pretty early, a donor-funded translational research program that awarded faculty on campus $300,000 to push their innovations from their labs in the direction of commercialization. This started in 2012, which, at least, recent history, that was some time ago. That's 13 years ago. We've now had 90 faculty fellows, dozens of companies started. And the thing is, what happened is it's called the Baker Fellows Program. It became cool, if you will, kind of surprisingly cool to get a Baker Fellows Award. And then other faculty wanted that. Right? And it really changed the mindset of what it means to be faculty and be successful at Berkeley. And this is now rolling out and has rolled out in a smaller way across the other. So University of California has 10 campuses. Berkeley is one of them, the first one, but it's being rolled out and has rolled out a little bit in a smaller scale to the other 9 campuses. So that's the first thing, mindset changing stuff. The second, and this is a little more subtle, but at least on our campus, I think, if I was able to show you that the slide with the 100 logos on it, what people don't realize is it's actually pretty easy to become a logo. You think, you have an idea, somebody at the business school has an idea, hey, we should start a program, we should start a virtual center. I know well about this because I started a virtual center. You can do it, right? There's not a lot of top-down administrative hurdles to doing that. You could try it, it could work, it could be great, it could flame out, like all sorts of different things. But we have very little hurdles to just experimentation in that way. That's been, and I think a lot of folks, especially from other universities that are a bit more top down, are surprised to see that we're able to do that. And then, of course, leaning into the mission, right? I mean, so people really do embrace this and have gotten over like thinking, oh, the entrepreneurship and commercialization is somehow not part of our mission. No, people have embraced it as being part of our mission.
And Darren, would you say your I&E division is the North Star to all of this? So pretty much everyone is encouraged, it sounds like, to do this, but
Mhm.
you actually share the framework and in some cases enable the actualization to happen.
Yeah. So I think it's helpful to know, even within our campus, innovation and entrepreneurship is not top down.
Hmm.
This is also a surprise to people, I think. The way we have it set up, the I&E department is within the Vice Chancellor for Research office. At least within my office, I have two orgs out of 65 on this innovation. We have an Innovation and Entrepreneurship Council where we meet once a month. Representatives of 65 different orgs on campus come together and compare notes and look for ways to collaborate and share successes. Only two of them, of the 65, report into my office.
Mm.
It's Berkeley Skydeck, our startup accelerator, and our tech transfer office. The other 63 are just management by influence, looking for places to collaborate and looking for synergies that people may not have otherwise seen. So
Mm.
it's an unusual distributed framework, but that really works. I mean, this is the thing I think a lot of people assume incorrectly, because I assumed incorrectly before I took a full-time job on campus, is that, oh, sure, there's 65 orgs in this council, but they're probably all fighting with each other, right? Like they're fighting over the same resources, and not the case. There's very little politics. What I'm surprised to see when I came on campus. The history is I was hired by Rich Lyons back in 2021 to run this virtual center on campus, the Life Sciences Entrepreneurship Center, donor-funded center designed just to knit together, tie together the disparate resources we had that supported life sciences entrepreneurship. I thought, oh, the biggest challenge is going to be getting people to work together. Not at all. No, they were looking for reasons to work together. They just didn't know each other.
That's great. I have two follow-up questions, and Joe will sometimes smile when I do this because as you share something, I have probably 10 questions in my head because I'm intrigued by what you have going on there.
And he
Number
likes to
one,
ask them all at
I
once.
know, I
So
know,
go
I
ahead.
know, Joe. I'm going to hold back. I'm limiting myself to two because I feel like they're somewhat related here, and Joe will correct me if I'm not. Okay, so the first one, Darren, is really along the lines of what what aspects of what's been implemented at Berkeley do you think can transfer to other institutions across the nation? Meaning, do you see, innovation offices evolving the same way? Do you see that decentralization playing out the same way in other institutions? And number two, which is why I think they're linked, we've also seen the most significant change to research funding recently, and that potentially affects how research is conducted across the landscape of higher education. Do you think models like this represent new alternatives and new economic alternatives for research and innovation into the future?
Yeah, yeah. So to answer your first question first, what I meet with a lot of other leaders from other universities where the question is kind of the same: is how do we do this? How do we do this back at our home campus? And my recommendation is almost always the same. It's even places I made this recommendation to Cornell, that was some places that you'd think would have a pretty sophisticated ecosystem. I said, first of all, you need the I&E Council. Like just need to get people across campus together. And second, the mechanism behind the scenes, super simple, but works like magic, is that we have this is going to sound silly because it is super simple. We have a shared Google sheet that's called the wins and opportunities sheet. Where we just log, and everyone's agreed to do this, and people comply with this. One thing that we accomplished, that our org accomplished this month, that we just want to share. It's the win. You have to log at least one win. If you don't have a win, what are you doing, right? I mean, you've logged one win. And then optionally put opportunities and things where you think you could work together, and things that didn't work, and things you need help with. And people really fill out the sheet. And then the other orgs look at it and say, oh, yeah, no, I know how we've done that before. We can help you with this. Or we find reasons to hold a joint event or something. There's almost nothing to it, right? I mean, this is the lowest lift thing you can imagine. A monthly meeting with a shared sheet. Well, do that first, right? And then the second question about funding and research, and yes, of course, it's something that we're all thinking about a lot. And within my department, the Industry Alliances Office reports in, and guess what? I mean, it's no surprise that we're thinking about how to better engage industry, because I think every university is. But the other thing is that you mentioned is that we're really looking carefully at how we get a potential financial upside from the innovations that incubate from campus, right? So we're looking at opportunities to get more equity in the companies that are coming out of the university. Counterintuitively, what we've identified as being perhaps the bigger value is actually getting the right to invest in the companies that are coming out of the university, right? So it's one thing to get a couple percentage points of equity, but what if we had a seat at the table to get on the cap table, the capitalization table, and from the campus make an investment in high flyers? So this has actually been modeled as something that it has a pretty interesting, significant financial upside.
Yeah, that's intriguing. I think it actually represents a potential that not many folks think about in terms of you've got really smart minds, you've got amazing researchers, and if you foster really value creation on a campus, just how far can it go to impact society? I kind of want to take it through a different lens now. Can you talk about what this means for students? How does this change the student value proposition? We're kind of living at a point in time, Darren, where the average student across the U.S. probably starting to question the value of higher education. Is the 4-year degree and the traditional journey always going to lead to an outcome that is that is meeting the moment that we're in? And I'm wondering, as you think about this and all the excitement that you've got around innovation and launching, and eventually, I hope we got some time later, I would love to pick your brain and figure out what are the 2 most exciting innovations that you're looking forward to, and how is it going to change the world, if you can share it with us. But first, let's go to students in terms of how is this impacting the student value proposition at Berkeley?
If you're afraid of success, go ahead and tune out, because this segment is not for you. Every year, Higher Ed talks about change, but Insights EDU 2026, that's not another conference. It's the catalyst. It's where fresh data drops, revealing real insights on how modern learners are thinking, searching, and deciding right now. And here's a spoiler for higher ed leaders. Most institutions aren't keeping up. 3 days on the beach, February 17th to the 19th, 2026, in Fort Lauderdale. Over 65 powerhouse speakers, 40 sessions, zero fluff. We're talking unfiltered strategy, AI integrations, and forward thinking built for the leaders who want to disrupt before they're disrupted. So here's the question. Are you ready to lead transformation or be overtaken by it? Reserve your spot now at insightsedu.com. Early bird pricing ends December 15th. Support the EdUp experience for just $5.99 a month. And lock in that rate for life. You'll get ad-free early access to episodes. But hurry, price goes up after December 31st, 2025. Visit edupexperience.com. That's EDUP experience.com and click support the show.
Yeah, so it's a good question. We're lucky in that we just get more applicants every year. So we're up to 150,000 applications for the undergraduate class. So there's no shortage of interest in coming here. But I think the reason it keeps going up is because of some of the stuff that we just discussed. I mean, it's become really intriguing. I mean, we're now the startup campus, right? So if anyone has any inclination toward that, they may be slightly more interested in UC Berkeley. But we have a couple different things on campus that I think is especially intriguing for undergrads. And I'm thinking specifically of undergraduate students. First, I'm just going to ask a general question, like a thought experiment. What percentage of undergrads, Berkeley or otherwise, do you think should be startup founders? I mean, this is not for everyone, right? I mean, this is like that's 5%. Unusual DNA, right? But what percentage of undergrads do you think would benefit from thinking like an entrepreneur?
100%.
100%.
100%. Right.
100%. I didn't even have my sound effect ready for that one.
Indeed. So we have a program on campus called Berkeley Changemaker, trademarked Berkeley Changemaker, where these are classes that share a common theme of collaboration, critical thinking, and communication. Basic stuff. And they're in every topic. We have 50 of these classes now. But they all share a common framework. And they're not entrepreneurship classes. So I had one at Haas. It was called, that I taught, Berkeley Changemaker, Human Health. Yeah, it's thinking about human health issues, public health issues, but with kind of an entrepreneurial problem-solving lens. No, I wouldn't expect anyone from that class to go on and start a company. Maybe someone would, but this is really going through, some aspects of what we think of as entrepreneurship education. We've had 10,000 Berkeley students take at least one Changemaker course at this point, high volume stuff. So we also, the other thing that I think was really a interesting sort of intro to just what we think of the people who are curious about entrepreneurship. They're not sure. They're like, hey, they've heard about it. Maybe it's something for them. The Berkeley Haas Entrepreneurship Hub, or the eHub, on campus, a building on campus, drop-in space, you become a member, but just like the earliest of earliest thinking about, is this for me? So a wonderful program that now is hundreds of students are going through this every year. What's super intriguing is that the eHub actually has a person in the building whose job is the navigator. And it sounds just like what you think. The navigator at the eHub is just there to talk to students, mostly undergrads, but also grad students, staff, and even faculty, just to say, hey, we have a complicated ecosystem. This is what I've got. This is where I want to go. How do I do it? And the navigator gives tips and tricks about how to navigate it.
So Darren, you've got your chancellor that once led the office, actually had your role. And he probably had some strong thoughts in terms of 100% of students also, going in and developing that skill. How do you think that will shape? And I know you probably don't want to put words into his mouth, but how do you think that shapes the future of pedagogy and just continued evolution at Berkeley? Across the nation, we're seeing a number of big trends right now.
Mm-hmm.
The reinvention of the liberal arts, the introduction of career-centric or career centricity in terms of instruction, but also experiential learning. And of course, here we're talking about innovation and eventually, taking it, where rubber hits the road, which is starting a company and spinning it off. How do you think all of these things are having an impact into the core product of education at Berkeley?
Yeah, well, that's a big, big question.
Yeah.
I'm not sure I have a great answer to that. I'll point out that Berkeley Changemaker, the 50 course series, came out of Rich Lyons' office. So it started with the Innovation and Entrepreneurship office. It's now moved from my office to undergraduate education, but it lives at a different place on campus. However, the Changemaker program has launched a different class, which this is interesting. It's open to everybody. This is open to, and I may have this right, even to alumni. Everybody, meaning current students, former students, staff, and faculty. But former students is what's unusual. This is a course that's actually from Berkeley that's open to alumni of the campus, and it's called Berkeley Changemaker: Openness to Opposing Views. This is a big topic. And what's interesting is designed by my colleague Laura Hassner, Executive Director for Innovation and Entrepreneurship, and also runs the Changemaker program, that this was commissioned by our chancellor. I mean, this is coming from the top, that he's saying, we need to have a course on this.
That's great. That's exciting.
How do you, Darren, because you have so much activity, so many entrepreneurs thinking about what comes next, thinking about products and services, how to impact the economy. How do you judge success from the university standpoint? Is it is it a company that's incubated and launched, and the university decides, hey, we're going to invest in this in some way? Is that success?
Mm-hmm.
Is it just that the company launched? Is it the fact that is it a company that failed is considered a success because somebody learned something from these entrepreneurs learned something? How do you define the impact at those different stages and what's successful and what isn't?
Yeah, that's a good question. There's a lot of different metrics that we can and do use. The PitchBook rankings. That's number of venture-backed startups founded by undergraduate alumni. We see that as a success, right? I mean, so if you're curious about the stats on that, it's a 10-year rolling window, and I should know the number, but they have to have raised a certain amount of money. It's not trivial. It's at least $1 million, I think several $1 million. So that's some success. We tout those rankings. But again, going back to the mission, this question actually was just asked in a panel for the book launch event last week. It's like, hey, what is success anyway? And it's a lot squishier, right? It's not just number of venture-backed startups. We really are leaning into providing long-term societal benefits. And that, now you're off the rails when it comes to like metrics, right? I mean, how do you quantify that? We do have a project going on between the city of Berkeley and the Haas School of Business where we're trying to quantify some economic benefits, at least to the city of Berkeley, from our I&E activities. But that's just one aspect, right?
And talked a little at the beginning about keeping it local. The city of Berkeley, what an important interest the city has in taking every single one of those entrepreneurs and making sure they stay in Berkeley, California, because of the impact. But also as likely as that company says, hey, let's move to XYZ city and start it up there.
Yeah.
Are there city incentives that come out? Does the city say, hey, look, if you keep your company local, we're going to do this, or maybe reduce your tax rate? Or I mean, there must be incentives to keep things local, which is also a great benefit for a founder to move things forward, right?
Yeah, for sure. There are, and to answer your question directly, yes, there are city level benefits. There's like a fast track for permitting. There's a exception for certain R&D taxes. There's things like that the city has implemented just to try to keep companies in town. We're also thinking, just like I said, we had this meeting this morning with developers, because developers are building the space for companies that are coming from campus, coming from Baker Labs, which I want to tell you about in a second, to have a place to live in the city with startup space, lab space, other space where you can grow a company. So yeah, we're thinking about that carefully. I just wanted to highlight Baker Labs because Baker Labs is our startup incubator on campus for biotech startups. We currently have 30 tenants in there. So, and what people are surprised to learn, because they know what the building is. It's the former art museum for the campus, so a lot of people know what this is. It's just been converted into lab space. People say, yeah, oh, that's the building, the old art museum. It's got a bunch of startups in it. I think they assume, oh, they're all coming from campus. I mean, these are biotech startups that are being based on inventions from the Berkeley campus, and they just move across the street into the old art museum. No, actually, I think only 5 out of the 30 tenants have a Berkeley connection. That's a surprise. Why are outside companies coming to Berkeley, literally UC Berkeley, to found their company? It's because of the resources that we have on campus and in the city. So now we have it's very selective, actually, just to get into this incubator where we're asking them to pay rent. So these are companies that we expect to do well. Many of them, because they've grown their company in the city of Berkeley, they want to stay. It's difficult if you've grown from 2 people to 10 and to suddenly say, oh, now we're all moving to South San Francisco. That's not going to be cool with your employees, right? So anyway, we are thinking about that.
Brent, you got more? Because I got more.
You know what, Darren? So you've been in the role. Can you remind me? I think 14 months or
15 months.
15 months. And maybe you can highlight a couple innovations that even Joe and I may be able to relate to, because we're not always the smartest people, that maybe are have come out of Berkeley with this program, or that you hope will be out? Because I think many times we can think about programs like this and we think of it in the abstract.
Mhm.
When we're able to connect to the impact it delivers, it sometimes just rings home differently.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a couple things that I've launched over since I took over this position that I'm just super proud of. Like, and the thing is, it was, this is one of those things where I just suggested other people do it and they did it. So it wasn't a big lift for me, but I'm glad to see that it's happening. Our Berkeley's new mayor, Mayor Adina Ishii, is a UC Berkeley grad. She happens to live in the city, from Haas, from the business school. And she's super supportive of UC Berkeley innovation and entrepreneurship. It was a city council member, Brent Blackaby, who suggested, you know what, we keep getting these ideas pitched to us from campus, from students, from well-meaning, eager students who say, hey, we've got this great solution for parking or something in the city of Berkeley. And he said, usually it's interesting, but it's not the problem that they have. Right? Students are assuming that there's a problem that doesn't exist. So he suggested, and the mayor backed it up. It's like, why don't we flip it around? So we're launching. In fact, the news came out just today, the public launch of the Berkeley Civic Innovation Challenge, where the city leaders are pitching UC Berkeley students what problems they have. And then, hey, smart students, go and see if you can fix this. So it's part of.
You just made the list.
Yes, indeed. It's part of our Big Ideas Contest, which has been around for a long time, over 20 years. Big Ideas Contest. It's our social sector innovation platform. And we've always had a municipal track, right, where students are coming up with ideas to help cities. This is the first year where it's flipped around, and the city's coming to us to supply the problems for the municipal track. Not complicated, right? It's kind of obvious when you think about it. But what a cool idea. Oh, by the way, Mayor Ishii, actually, when she was a student, participated in the Big Ideas Contest and won it. Like, this is like full circle, right? So yeah, so major support.
I
Yeah.
imagine your students are just tremendously excited then to actually take these problems and run with it. So
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's gonna be huge. Really exciting. So this is something that's come out of just the last 12 months. The other, I mentioned this before we started recording, is that we're launching this Faculty Founders Network. We now have, because of the Baker Fellows program, because of proof of concept funding programs on campus, a real interest from our faculty about how do they participate in this ecosystem? How do they start companies? Because they can see their peers or colleagues and like, wow, that person started 8 companies already. How do I do that? And so we're putting together, based on the I&E Council, based on other programs that we have on campus, the Faculty Founders Network, where mostly it's an email list where someone says, hey, does anyone know a good attorney to do something? But also with the idea of having a super easy to understand, bite-sized 20-minute meeting. Like, specifically, we plan to have a 20-minute meeting where one successful faculty founder is interviewed live. And the idea is this is going to be at 8:30 in the morning for people when they're driving into campus, just to listen in. It's snack sized, but we're calling it a live podcast. But because we plan to record it and make it available still just internally. We've actually had a debate recently, like, this could be generally interesting, but at least for now, I think we're leaving it as just an internal resource. Again, what we've discovered is just pulling together a platform like that, the Faculty Founders Network. It's just a mailing list. It's a Google group, literally, is really amazing the way you can build a community pretty simply. So we've done the same thing with executive directors on campus. We've done the same thing with Berkeley, people who engage with corporate networks, Berkeley Corporate Engagement Network. So anyone on campus who regularly interfaces with industry is now part of BCEN. Again, this just started in the last year, and I was the one who suggested that we need it, but not hard to stand up. So putting together networks like that is not a low lift, relatively speaking, and huge reward.
Darren, I'm going to go ahead and predict if you open this up nationally, you're going to get quite the expansion of that network. I think a lot of faculty from across the nation would be eager to brainstorm, but also learn from what the team at Berkeley is doing. So great job, great job.
Yeah.
Nailed it.
Well, thank you.
Darren, we have a question, and much when someone's having so much success, replicating that success, being sort of in the number one spot all the time is pretty tough, right? So you have to keep iterating, keep coming up with new and fresh ideas, stay in that position. It's the arguably that getting to the top position is harder than staying, or staying in the top position is harder than getting there. When you think about that moving forward in your role, how do you keep thinking about innovating to ensure that the innovation keeps going forward and you maintain the pace?
Block out your calendar, bring your team, and lock in your spot, because Insights EDU early bird pricing ends December 15th. We'll see you in Fort Lauderdale, February 17th to the 19th, 2026. For 3 days, they will disrupt what you think you know about marketing and enrollment for today's modern learner. The EdUp experience has delivered over 1,000 episodes with higher ed leaders from around the world. Now you can support the show for just $5.99 a month and lock in that rate for life when you join before December 31st, 2025. You'll enjoy ad-free early access to episodes. Go to edupexperience.com. That's EDUP experience.com. Click support the show and secure your lifetime rate today.
Yeah. I've thought about this a lot. That's for sure. And I'll tell you, one of my biggest challenges is in my role is not at all what people think it is. They're always surprised to hear. And it's born out of the success we've had with the pitch book rankings, with the chancellor, with the startup campus book. Suddenly there's a lot of momentum. The Nobel Prizes too, right? We have a lot of momentum, a lot of buzz around Berkeley, which gets to alums who are successful, usually in the entrepreneurship space, who are successful, and they come back to me and say, how can I help? We actually have too much help at the moment, right? Which is not a bad problem to have. It's just figuring out how to harness it. So that's
I say that all the time when Brent shows up to co-host with me. I'm like, Brent, I got too much help right now with.
Exactly. So we're thinking
too easy. Thank you, Darren, for that one.
Yes, you're welcome. We're thinking hard about how do we harness that. UC Berkeley has 600,000 living alumni, and a lot of them are really excited recently about the campus. And a lot of them have real expertise and genuinely are looking just to give back. How do we harness that? Well, I'll tell you, I have a bunch of ideas, but and they're early enough. I'm not going to record them on a podcast, but real expectation for not just like 10x or 100x, but 1,000x alumni engagement, which trickles back to campus. So wow. I think that keeps us in the lead.
I like that big thinking, Brent, don't you? 1,000x, that sounds good.
I love it.
What'd you think of this, Brent? What'd you think of this conversation? Does it make you want to go and innovate something?
I feel like I am 100 startups behind what I should be doing in the world right now after talking to Darren. But it also makes me feel better, when my head hits the pillow at night, knowing that Darren and his team are working on changing the world, and they're working on innovation really through what I would call the cornerstone of higher education. So just love the conversation. Looking forward to just learning more about what you do and what will come from the center.
Darren, close us out. Another 1-2 minutes. Anything else you want to say about the I&E division department at UC Berkeley?
Well, so one thing that didn't come up naturally in the conversation, but is also unusual on our campus, actually it's our whole UC system, that is worth mentioning, is from the top, from the executive vice provost, there's a direction to the chancellors. There's a memo on this, which I'm happy to share with you, that says innovation and entrepreneurship activity should count as a positive in faculty tenure evaluations. Very unusual. So I know this is unusual because I get a lot of folks from other universities coming through, and I ask, has anyone heard of this before? Like, is this true at your university? And if not, are you aware of anyone else? I can tell you, I've found one other who said, absolutely, this is what we do. It was the University of Sydney in Australia, but that's the only one. And so now I'm recording this on a podcast. You're probably going to get a bunch of responses saying like, oh no, we do it too. but I mean, I think it just shows that this is being supported from the top. I mean, so not only it's easy to start, one of the logos I just told you about, and we all like to work together on the council, but then, with our new chancellor, and then this is coming from the OP office of president level saying, this is a positive. So I think you need it all, right?
Yeah, anything that's going to be adopted the way it needs to be has to be, in a top-down, fully supported by the college president. It's the way universities are moving forward. And it sounds like UC Berkeley is not only moving forward, but atop the mountain, if you will. Congratulations, Darren, on all the success at the I&E division and the work that you've been leading over the last 15 months. And I'm sure that interim title will be repealed, and you'll be CIEO, whatever it is, CIEO very soon, because it would be very smart of the folks at UC Berkeley to do that. And that's just my opinion here, one person's opinion here on the EdUp Experience podcast. Brent, thanks for being here as my co-host. And Darren, thanks for being here and unloading really the tremendous amount of information and success you've had at UC Berkeley.
Awesome. Yeah, it was my pleasure. Thank you, Joe. Thank you, Brent.
Here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, he's Darren Cook. He's the Interim Chief Innovation and Entrepreneurship Officer at UC Berkeley. You just EdUp'd.